T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Shout out to US ARC and all US ARC members. If you don't know what US ARC is, don't be ashamed. Just go ahead and click the third link in the description below. See what US ARC is all about, okay? You never know when legislations are going to hit your backyard, so that's why it's very important to consider becoming a US ARC member today. These numbers really do matter, and they look at it for consideration when it comes to battling legislation. So first and foremost, thank you, Phil Goss. Thank you to anybody out there who partners up and volunteers with US ARC organization. Thank you for anyone out there who's a US ARC member. And if you can't become a US ARC member today, please talk about it on your platforms. Let your neighbors know, let all your pet stores know what US ARC is here for, and it's here to fight for our animal rights. Thank you to every US ARC member and US ARC supporter out there. True.
All right, you're now tapped into the coolest reptile network podcast in the world, the Trap Talk Reptile Network. This is Krista with the Girls Who Love Reptiles podcast. I'm really excited to have Brooke back on tonight just to talk about at Daytona, we ran into each other. Haven't seen her since Trap Fest, which was a lot of fun, but just talking about her collection, her recent Drymarchons clutches, and I think it'll be a great time tonight. So yeah, episode 51. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button down below. Give a comment, hit that notification bell so that you get notified whenever we go live 7 days a week now. And then if you are interested in, of course, joining US ARC, like MJ just talked about, click the link down below. And if you're looking for a Patreon to join, again, the link to the Trap Family Patreon is down below. Great way to get tapped into keepers that keep various species all across the world, and it's a great network building opportunity. So go ahead and look for that down below. And then I will go just straight into our sponsors here. So the official sponsor of the Girls Who Love Reptiles podcast is ReptiCo. So started by Channing Rice. She's the daughter of Dawn and Billy Rice from Rice Reptiles. She started her own business doing really high quality, high-end hognoses and crested geckos. So if you're not already following them, follow them on Official ReptiCo on Instagram. And then or Rice Reptiles, follow them as well. And then follow them on MORPH Market. And also the Rice family is putting out great content every week on YouTube. So go ahead and follow them on there. And then, of course, we have none other than Mr. Brian Susan. Got to see him in Daytona. Really high-end quality Kahuya gecko breeder, as well as does some tree monitors and some ambronia. So he's a breeder I really look up to as far as the geckos, and I have some of his own production in my collection, which I'm very proud of. So again, if you're into those species, breeding those species, or looking to get into them, reach out to Brian and he will hook you up. And then, of course, we got RGI. So if you're collecting those sheds, about ready to send them off, hit up Ben from Rare Genetics Incorporated, get you set up with testing your sheds. Only way to really get ahead is by testing those sheds. Don't have any of those POS hats. It's becoming a thing in the past now. So again, if you're looking to get a competitive rate, reach out to Ben from RGI. And then, of course, if you're kind of like me previously, a little unorganized with your ball python collection and pairings, definitely look into Clutch. Just started that back up again, got all the animals in there, getting some printers this week to be able to print out ID cards and get that situated. So again, it's a really nice, modern, clean interface. And Justin and Sebastian, the team at Clutch, is always working very hard to bring new interfaces to Clutch. So really excited to see what they do in the near future with that. And we'll go ahead and bring Brooke on and we'll get started. All right. Hey, Brooke.
Hey.
How's it going? How's your weekend been?
It's going. Just been taking care of animals like crazy since we got back from Daytona. Just making sure like all the feeder animals and then our own animals are doing good, and everyone's just happy that we're back, I think.
Yeah, it's fun going out of town, but then it's kind of a lot of work and stress before you leave to get everything done, and then also when you get back, getting everything
Yeah. I
done
have a
too.
smaller collection, so I feel like it's not as bad. I know Steven definitely is always like scrambling last minute. But I hate leaving my dog, and then leaving the rhino iguanas kind of sucks because like Rocco always gets really salty with me, like when I get back and everything. I have to sweet talk him for a couple weeks.
Funny. Do you guys have somebody that comes over and takes care of them, or how does that work when you guys are gone?
Yeah, so luckily enough, Steven's dad will come and take care of everything for us. So that's really nice. But yeah, we don't really know too many people out here, and it's always hard like trusting new people with like this many animals. So we try to keep it quiet, like what's all going on here. So it is really nice. We have a family member we can trust with all the animals, and my dog loves him, so it works out great.
Yeah, no, that works out really well. I haven't really found with me moving someone quite yet. My sister's coming over this week because I'm going out of town to go back to school to finish that up. So I'll be gone Thursday, Friday, or through the weekend. So she's coming. Thankfully, it's not too long. Where like the snakes and stuff are usually fine.
Yeah.
Um, my humidity in the gecko room is pretty good. It stays around 50%. And since they're in PVC, it's even like higher in there. So I might just have her mist every other day, and then I'll feed them pretty heavily before I
Yeah.
leave.
Yeah, usually I feel like geckos and snakes, they're pretty easy to leave like for longer periods of time. I feel like what worries me the most is like the bigger lizards and stuff. My tegu, you can feed him for like a good meal, and then he's good for the week. You just need to make sure he has water. But yeah, I feel like snakes are definitely easier to leave. It's funny enough, my box turtle is like as high maintenance as my iguanas. So like he's like having another dog. So I always like have to remember to like keep his water clean and stuff, because of course he loves to poop in his water and he loves to swim every day. So I can't get rid of that.
That's funny. And probably with the food, high maintenance too, right? Because like the salads and stuff.
Yeah, so he gets salads, but then he also gets like a lot of different like protein. So I breed dubia roaches for because I have keeled lizards, and then my geckos, I'll feed them like small nymph dubia roaches sometimes. But he eats a lot of the roaches now, and then he also gets earthworms, and then if I can find snail meat, I'll give him that, and then he's eaten some other stuff like reptilinks, and I had like a tiny bit of ground turkey left over, so I gave him that before. He pretty much eats like anything I feed him, and he likes fruits a lot too. So he's a very omnivorous little guy. But
Yeah.
I think earthworms is like one of their main things in their diet in the wild, and slugs. And unfortunately, we don't have slugs in West Texas. At least I can't find them. It's probably like way too dry. So he only gets earthworms that I get from, Petco or PetSmart. So.
Okay. Yeah, pretty complex diet compared to the snakes. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it definitely he falls like more into like my lizard care with the iguanas and stuff, and then I guess my keeleds a little bit, but and then I guess my indigos too. They eat pretty much anything and everything you feed them. So I do have a lot of different foods in the house for things. I definitely like the Reptilink stuff. Just with how many animals I have, it can get expensive. So that's more of like a once a year thing I can do an order. And that's pretty much it.
What meat is Reptilinks made of?
So they have a bunch of different meats actually, and they have different blends. And one of the blends that was a big hit in my household was the Bayou blend. And I think it had crawfish in it, frog, and then I believe something else, like maybe insects, I think it was. But they really liked that. And then the indigos, I got them frog and quail, and they really like that. We breed quail now, actually. So it's more my thing than Steven's. He takes care of the rodents now more, that my time's like divided with the birds, because birds are really high maintenance. So I take care of all of those, and so I'll feed the eggs and just the birds to different stuff as well, which has been really nice to add to their diet, because quail is pretty expensive too. Even in bulk, like it can be kind of costly. When you have as many animals as we do, it can be very expensive. So it has been nice to be breeding that, to give them a little bit more diversity when I can't get Reptilinks and different stuff like that. But Asian food markets is what I recommend for getting a lot of variety. And then Whole Foods has been nice just for chicken feet and chicken hearts. But I haven't been able to find any like weirder stuff there. But the indigos love frog legs. And that was always like a big hit. Just like throughout like the household, even my Tegu, he likes frog legs too. So if I can get a hold of that, I definitely like to feed it to the animals. I just think it's more natural based on like their breeding season in the wild. They do eat a lot of frogs and toads because it's like the rainy season when they start breeding. So that's when all of those animals start producing a lot. Food sources are high, so the indigos then kick into breeding gear as well. So I think it's just cool to start their season off with frog legs some of the times, because it'll just be more like a natural like dopamine kick for them to a degree.
Yeah, for sure. Never thought about that. Yeah, at an Asian market. I mean, probably will look into some quail for very more on the chondro and stuff when they get a little bit bigger as like a very die. How long have you guys been breeding the quail for? Is it button quail that you're breeding, or
we've been breeding the button quail I think since last September Dallas, or it was the other Dallas show. My brain is not remembering right, but we've had them for quite a while now. I had to call a male from the button group, so my production kind of halted, but just today I got some more eggs from females, so I'm hoping they kick back into gear because a lot of my animals like them, and it's really fun to feed to my indigos, and then they'll have like 5 eggs in them. So it's just really cool to feed different stuff, different things. And my box turtle really likes quail eggs too. When I have babies hatch out, or they don't hatch out, some just are not good, I guess, in the egg, and they'll pip, but they won't like push out or anything. And I just guess I'm not going to intervene. I feel like if they're strong enough, they're going to get out because all the other ones do it. So I will feed him like the developed like embryo chicks and different things like that. Same with the snakes. They like those as well.
Yeah, very cool. So yeah, there's really no part of it that's wasted in that part. So yeah, pretty good.
Definitely not in our house. And then any extra ones I have, my dog eats the quail eggs. And I'm sure he would eat a quail if I gave it to him. So he definitely helps clean up stuff around here.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to look into them as well. So I saw you last week at Daytona. How was that? I know you guys came and went to some different places beforehand, but how was that overall trip for you?
It was a really amazing trip. It was really cool to see different people. I had like a total fangirl moment when Steven told me we were going to like Palm Beach, Colubridge, John's place. I think I was just really tired from traveling and stuff, but it like took me a minute. And then he was like saying it's going to be really hard for me to like not leave with king rats. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like my brain just like wasn't clicking. And then we're getting closer and I'm like, oh, we're in Palm Beach. I was like, wait, we're going to Palm Beach, Colubridge. And then like his place is just like a dream. His new facility, at least his building he made, is really beautiful. And it's open space, like open floor in the center, and just beautiful cages and set up just properly for those different species. And it was just really cool to see someone breeding a lot of different animals, just like quite a few species, and doing it well. And then the animals were like in immaculate condition, and it didn't smell. It was for king rats, I feel like that's pretty like rare.
Yeah.
Colubrids can be cannons. So I feel like when you have a place like that and it is in that type of condition, like you should be proud of that. And I think he also produces his own rodents, which is really cool. So I guess he's just like living the dream for sure. And it was really cool to go see his animals in person. I definitely got reignited to like want rhino rats again. I've passed on them a few times just because I don't I didn't want to spend money on like another expensive snake, because when I was looking at them, they were like $1,000. And I have like all my indigos who are in the, you know, more figures for snakes. So I didn't want to keep spending like $2,000 on a snake, $1,000 on a snake. So I just committed to the indigos and didn't get them. But I think after being at his place and seeing another beautiful one, I definitely will take a dabble in them in the future and probably get a pair once I have more space too.
Yeah.
So that was really nice to see. And then seeing some different like iguana species, turtle species at Daytona. The show was really, really fun because I just absolutely love different lizard species. Oh, and I can't forget to mention, we went to Chris Rice's place and saw his emeralds. And he has an incredible collection. He has some other stuff too. I know he's got green trees, but he also has that basin, which is really cool to see from Marshall. So that was cool to hear like the backstory on that animal and just see some really incredible captive bred emeralds. So
he was in Florida. What part of Florida?
it was not that far from the Orlando airport. I think it was like an hour. I can't remember the city. If I remember, I will let you know. It's probably in my photos from like when we took pictures there.
He's
but
up north and that there. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So yeah, I'll have to let you know, because that would be cool if you could go link up with him one day and see his place. His, like I said, his animals are awesome. And then I fell in love with his rabbit, Daphne. So I was definitely preoccupied there, needless to say, with like all the beautiful snakes and then that cute little fluffy bunny thrown into the mix. So that was a really good time. He has like his animals are awesome. I've never kept emeralds or green trees. I think they're phenomenal. And I have to say, like, going to his place, it's hard to like not get the itch to be like, maybe just like one, you know, because they're such a pretty animal. And I know basins are the rage, and it's not like I would never want one. Like, that's the goal, I think, for many reptile keepers. But I think a nice captive bred northern, you can't like go wrong with it. Like, they're still a beautiful animal, and they're really calm. I think they get a bad rap for sure, because seeing him handle that many different ones and like none of them like reacted, none of them bit. I think some of them posted up a couple times just because they were younger and they wanted to like look at their surroundings, but none of them ever struck. And I thought that was really cool to see, because at least me personally, I've worked with imports in the past at a pet store that I worked for, and they were never nice. They were an animal you had to use like a hook with and use like caution with. And I mean, he can just go in there and take them off their perch with his hands. He doesn't use a hook for them. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, I like them. I think when I went to MJ's, that was the first time I've seen that. I mean, I got the chondro itch a little bit when I was there. At first, I was like, they're pretty or whatever, but then actually holding them up and seeing them close in person, all the detail and the beauty and the scales, I was like, oh, okay, this is like pretty cool. So yeah,
MJ has a beautiful collection too. Without a doubt, they're a beautiful animal. I like interactive snakes quite a bit more. Not saying that they aren't at all, but I definitely like my colubrids that like cruise around and they'll like come up and like look me dead in the eye and stuff. And so I definitely have noticed my taste in reptiles to be more of them that move a lot more and are more interactive than the ones that like sit a lot more. But you can't say like those animals aren't beautiful, and they wouldn't be cool to have in your collection at some point for sure.
Yeah, maybe someday for me, not in the near future, but I'm not financially there for her base.
No, I always thought like if I'm gonna spend that much money, it's definitely gonna be on a lizard. Like, I just know it will be, or like a turtle or a tortoise. So if I'm gonna drop like 10K on something that's like a crazy animal, like it's definitely gonna be a lizard or something, because my heart is definitely more with lizards besides indigos. That's the funniest like thing for me, is like I'm totally a lizard person, but when it comes to indigos, like they're the one snake that's like it goes up there for me, because I'm like, damn, like they're just a really, really cool species. And when I have a snake, like, or any reptile that gets me like passionate or like giddy, like I used to be as a kid, like getting into it, it's like, that's an animal I want to like devote my time to. Cause you know, when you're passionate about something, it's going to make your project go longer. It's going to have you more into what you're doing. And I think a lot of people, when they get into this industry, they just get distracted with like what's cool, what's new, and it's exciting, instead of like what makes them excited and what ignites that passion in them, because that is what's going to sell your animal. Like
100%.
you having cool animals, sometimes it'll sell to certain people, but you having that passion to back like what you're keeping, I think will help you sell those animals, especially in the long run.
100%, especially in the ball pythons where it's a lot more competitive, like you're all working very similar stuff. Granted, some projects are worked a lot more than some other ones, but yeah, it comes down to the actual person selling, how passionate they are, and then the buyer. I mean, I feel it when I talk to some people, like that passion stuff that transmits over, that kind of can convert the sale in person. I've seen.
I feel like it does help the sale, because when you're just like, oh, you want it, buy it, like, what does that do for like the person like buying it? Does it get them excited about it? Does it make them really want the animal? And I get it, like with some species, like you don't want to just like push them onto people, but I feel like if you can educate people in a passionate way, that'll, you know, help you sell stuff, and then also be good for the species overall.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping to do with the Chihuahua geckos, because I love those things so much. I mean, they are pretty interactive, but I also like to just let them chill, especially like the breeders, but it's like tough because I want to get them out, play with them, take pictures of them.
Take
but
pictures.
it's kind of like they're kind of like magical. Some species are like that. You can't just, it's hard to describe to people how you feel if they don't feel it. But you just gotta work with what you like, even though like your friend, like your best friend may not like them or like the project you're working. You just have to do it, kind of be selfish and do it for you. You know?
Yeah. No, and I think that's like kind of cool about Steven and ours. We have very different like tastes in reptiles. I feel like we definitely like, I mean, I like the animals he keeps too. Probably the Spilotes is like high up there for me, just because they are a fun colubrid. But it is cool to just see like the differences in like what people keep, and even if it's not for them, like we still are like supportive of each other on like what we're doing. But to go back to the Chihuahuas, like I feel like they're very unique, because not like no two are really the same, and that's any reptile when they're like that. I think that makes an animal unique, because there's so many species where they just are like carbon copies of each other. And it doesn't mean they're like a less important species or this and that, but I've always been a fan too of the animals. And that's why I like indigo so much, is because none of my indigos look the same. They all have different reds in different places and stuff. So that definitely makes them unique to me. And it's definitely something that's always drawn me to Chihuahuas. Like I said, I had to downsize on the new cow stuff, but I do debate on downsizing more of my chameleon geckos and having like a different, smaller lizard species. But I definitely always have eyeballed the Chihuahuas, just because I love the like high pinks and the high reds that some of them have. And then even the ones with the really clean white collars and stuff, those are really pretty too. Can't go wrong with a Chihuahua.
Go wrong. It'll be interesting to see how the genetics play out. I really want to focus on the mostly high colored stuff with some white, but also like a dark base, so it kind of creates that contrast with like the white, the color, and the dark, kind of darker base that kind of fits in there. It's kind of like splattered paint. No, like some people work like certain like patterns and stuff like that. I'm not really much into the pattern. I kind of just want the three colors kind of like mixed in there, kind of like a tortoiseshell cat, like the orange, the dark brown, and kind of like the white, the calico cat. So kind of like that kind of look. I guess I would call it Calico Project. Yeah, be kind of a good name for it. It'll take a while. Their genetics, I think, are interesting, because like we said, no two are the same. So we'll see when I pair them what pops out, and then I keep that whatever look I want, because they won't all be the same. Some are super high color, some are low.
That would be a good like color scheme, though. I feel like it would make the Chihuahuas pop a lot more. I definitely want to see that, so I will be Watching your page as usual.
It will be a long process. Like I said backstage, I have 5 incubating right now, and then I have a girl that she's only laid 2 clutches, so she could lay 1 more, I think, for the year. So I've been kind of just closely watching her. It's kind of interesting. The 2 breeder cages I have calcium like at the bottom, and like the one she laid when I got back from Daytona. But I was telling MJ and Amelia, I was like, I have a feeling this girl's like gonna lay soon just based on how she looks. But she started eating like a ton of the calcium. Like I would fill the thing and then the next day it would be like gone. Then I'd fill it and then it'd be gone. So she was starting to eat more calcium. I was like, I think this girl's gonna lay. And then I came back and I saw him. I was like, yeah, the eating of the calcium kind of was like a pre-lay thing. So
That's pretty interesting. I didn't know that they ate calcium kind of like leopard geckos do. They self-regulate like that. That's pretty cool.
yeah, they are just really the eggs. So I've done leopard geckos, but these eggs, it's like kind of like a little rock. It's so calcified, like the shell. So they're very prone to calcium crashing.
Got it.
Yeah, that's why I always have like a little dish of calcium, and then I have liquid calcium that I'll like shoot them up with after they lay the eggs. Just looks kind of like
Yeah.
a safety net thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After my female indigos lay, because they have some thicker eggs too, I always will give them some calcium on their rodent or whatever feeder I give them. And then we also use sea kelp for every like 6 weeks. They get a little dose of that because that helps with like kidney function and everything.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, and they get a little bit of salt too because that helps with kidney function. But that's just every 6 weeks. I do that. But I use Nectin supplements. Sometimes I use just the calcium, and then other times I use like the D3 with calcium. And I have been told it's fine to use like every 6 weeks. So that's what I do, just a little bit for all of their feeders. And that seems to help them bounce back like quickly after laying. Indigos like to eat, so they're not too hard to like get back feeling better, but just making sure they get that like little extra dose, I think, is always good.
Yeah, they just and every 6 weeks, I don't know, like I don't keep them, so it seems like a pretty good schedule. I think there's definitely room to add more. I feel like we don't really know that much about reptile nutrition, like as a whole. We just kind of go with, this is what, like even same thing for the chewies. Like we feed them based on crested gecko like diet and crickets or insects, but I feel like there could be more that could be added.
That's definitely why I switched to Nectin for my crested gecko food, because they used a couple different like proteins in there. And I felt like that was better for the animal than like Pangea, because it just seemed like a lot of fillers in Pangea. Not that it's like a horrible thing. It just, I wanted to try something different, especially because of my lychee. They have really runny poops. So whenever I have noticed her like get super runny stools, I'll just give her a couple more like insects and stuff, and that helps harden up her stool a little bit. And that's what I was telling you. She doesn't poop down the front of the glass, then she poops down the side wall. So like it's like collectively I have to make sure her diet, if she's getting enough protein, and then she doesn't seem to have like her liquid poops down the front. But I definitely have liked using their products just for like the protein aspect and my NeoCal stuff and for breeding. But I do add some calcium sometimes to their diet when they're pooping out eggs a lot, because they definitely, I feel like mine, I've never given them a dish of calcium to just self-regulate, but I kind of want to try that now because maybe they'll do it on their own and then I won't have to like add it to their food.
Yeah.
So that was pretty
That's what I just see, but just in the breeder cages, I do that. I'm also looking into making my own smoothie for them and kind of having more fresh ingredients, and also adding insect powder into that too to help. Like, probably I think black.
So Nectin uses black soldier fly larvae. So if you can have access to, I mean, because they sell that like freeze dried and stuff, so you wouldn't have to necessarily get live ones and grind them up, but that seems to help a lot of my geckos, at least with recovering from eggs and having stronger breeding seasons. But again, like I'm only using it on my geckos, and I don't have like a mass scale of geckos, so I'm not saying it's the only way to do things. It just definitely has seemed, mine have seemed to do better since switching them to nectin, and then also supplementing them here and there. And then when I do get access to insects and crickets, I definitely take advantage of that too. I think bugs are just, it's good to give those gecko species.
100%. Yeah, I give the chewies like them, and then yeah, that's a whole kind of science in itself is gut loading the insects. But I've seen pretty good growth on mine and stuff. And I see Marshall, check Asian market if you have one for frogs.
Yeah,
I'm sure there is one, probably like more in Naples. Here, there's a lot of, I would say, Hispanic based stores. They may still have the frogs. I'll have to like double check.
Yeah, I don't remember ever seeing frogs at like the Mexican markets by me in Illinois, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be like in Florida. I'll just say like Asian markets definitely have like more of that variety of things, where the Mexican markets had more of like the chicken variety, like the feets, the gizzards, the hearts, and then like different like bone marrows and stuff like that, I remember. But it's always worth like calling if you don't want to make the drive too, and just asking.
Yeah, that's smart too. I did a recording earlier today because I'm going to be out of town next week for savanna monitors, but she also did it for other species too. But snails was like a huge thing for the savanna monitors too. Like she did like the freeze dry, but then she also said there's like a powder that she'll put on like the salad, or I can't say salad, but I'm assuming it was a powder for like the bearded dragons and the skinks and stuff. So on top of their food topper, and she said she had great results with that too. Snails.
Okay, that'd be cool, like a powder topper. When I kept skinks for a little bit, I definitely fed them a lot of snail meat. They seem to enjoy it. Indigos, I've only had like 2 of them that'll eat it, so I haven't really bought much of it. But my box turtle, like I said, he would go ravenous for snail meat, I guarantee.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd be willing to try it. I think the chewy is like, in my research, what I've heard, like people think they're near water. So I'm wondering if maybe that's something that people can add.
Oh yeah, maybe we could cut up little pieces and just try to feed and see if like they like it. But I mean, if not, they don't have to. I know like for feeding different new cow stuff bugs, like some people say they like their animals won't eat bugs, and if you dunk like the animal, like the bug or whatever, in the crested gecko diet, like then they're more apt to like try it. So you could always try that too.
Try that, or even adding like the snail powder and the dusting the cricket with it, or putting in the powder. Mine seem to eat the crickets fairly well. There will be some times where the cricket like loses the dusting, and then I do find it in like the cage like the next feeding. So they tend to not eat them as much if they're not dusted, but for the most part they really like their cricket. Like as soon as I put them in there, I hear them like moving around trying to attack. Or like predators essentially for them. So.
I have one chameleon gecko that like she like waits for me to open the cage and like runs to me, so I like hand feed her bugs all the time, and I'm like,
I have a male in there
I love you.
Yeah, I have a male. Yeah, it's in this cage up top here that at night I didn't take a video, but he'll just like sit out front, and I just open the cage and he just like jumps on my hand and then chills out while I spray or feed. He always wants to be out. He's always at the front cage.
They are like way more of a social gecko from New Cal. I feel like lychees, like they really don't want to come out until it's like late at night, and then when it's late at night, they're kind of on demon time because like they're hunting and just existing as a gecko should. So I feel like, and then the gargoyles, I felt like the gargoyles could be like 50-50. Like sometimes they would be chill, and then other times they were like biting, they were jumping, they were like flighty. And I always just felt like Chihuahuas were kind of like the like puppy dogs of like the New Cal world, but some of them I know can be, feisty, like cage territorial too. But they seem like for the most part, when they're out of their enclosure, they're just chilling.
They're chill. I have a few of like the juvenile ones that are a little crazy, but it's probably because I'm trying to get them out in the middle of the day when they're kind of like sleeping. So if I get them out, they can be a little spazzy, but then once you get them out, they're completely chill. But sometimes just in the cage. But yeah, the older adults, they just chill.
That's definitely what I do like about my chameleon geckos is they're pretty diurnal. Like I see them out during the day all the time, and they're really active. They kind of do seem like they sleep more at night, because if I like shine a light in there, sometimes I'll like look to see like what's going on at night, and they like freak out. So yeah, I always feel really bad. But like, especially when we get back from like our trips, like I always just like shine lights to like see if I can get a head count of everyone, because they're usually just like sitting there. But I think they're sleeping because they freak out.
Also, for your geckos, what kind of sprayer do you have?
So they have the Exoterra misting system on them, the Monsoon. But like I'll go through with just the little pump spray mister and spray them a little bit, and then their plants, because all of my chameleon geckos tanks are like fully planted. Same with my lychee, so I have to like go in and spray a little extra just because of the plants and everything.
I got like this little dude, I blame MJ, but this like battery powered electric sprayer.
Yeah.
Like,
I need those.
Yes, I'm getting another one for the ball python because it's like mind blowing. Like it's almost therapy. I have to watch myself because I want to go in all the time and just spray them. It's not good. I'm like, okay, once every other day because the immunity is pretty good in this room. But like that, I'm obsessed with that thing. It's so calming.
You'll have to send me the link, because I was like looking them up on Amazon and like none of them were like that good with the reviews. Like everyone complained about them breaking. But I was telling Steven we had one of those when I worked at a pet store in Wisconsin, and it was my favorite thing ever. It made it so much easier. And then I would just put it on like a cart and just like shuffle it around the store, spraying everything. So it was like really nice.
So therapeutic. I'll be getting another one for the ball python. I'll send you the link because I got off Amazon one he recommended. It's a pretty blue one, but I'm like, yes.
Yeah, no, that would be ideal, especially for how many snakes Steven has. I feel like he would really appreciate it. Sometimes I don't know why, I get like annoyed because like my one mister from Home Depot, it doesn't hold like the pressure like once you pump it up, like you'll just like lose it. And I've gone through so many of them and like returned so many of them and keep getting bad ones that I'm just kind of like annoyed. So I'll take like the handheld like mister and go and do all of my animals, and I'm just like, dang, this is a lot. But it's better than having a mister like lose pressure after like 20 seconds.
Yep. I've only had this one for 2 weeks, but I'm like, man, the pressure is like wonderful. Just hit a little button and it just, and I feel the water. So nice. I'll have to send you the link. So
luxury.
literally life changing. So we can, I guess, also kind of switch over to Drymarchons too a little bit. When did you get? I think you probably spoke this on the last show, but when did you kind of get into them?
So I didn't get into them until 2020. That's when I got my first one. I am pretty sure it was 2019 when I like first saw this animal, which is Natiri, my first one. He was at the pet store I was working at as a baby, and he was probably like a yearling, not a baby. But he was young, and I thought he was really cool. And I only worked there part-time because I was also in college at the time. So I went on spring break and left for 2 weeks. And when I came back, he had like really bad scale rot, and it was like covering his whole body. And it like crushed me like completely, because I had been saving money up to buy this snake because he was $2,000 at the time. Wow. So I was stashing money away, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna get this snake like eventually when I get back, like I'll work towards it, like I'll make this happen. And so I was crushed when he was completely rotted. He ended up having to have like part of his tail amputated because it was like literally necrotic. So I did months and months of rehab on him. I soaked him in betadine and then put silver on his wounds, like after I could like get some of the stuck shed off and the rotted skin off. And I think it took me 9 months to rehab him completely, where all his scarring and everything was all covered. And like now you couldn't even tell. He just has kind of like a little nub tail. But I feel like only I really notice it because like, I mean, I was the one that was like through it with him and everything, but it's not super noticeable. He still has a good part of his tail. So being able to work with him, like when I first started working with him, he used to bite the crap out of me. He was really just like angry, and I would have been too. Like he was probably in a lot of pain. But it was like almost after like a month into his care, he kind of like would study what I was doing. And I was just like, this is different like than any other like colubrid I've worked with, because colubrids are like observant, but they don't like study like what you're doing or learn routines really, besides like feeding, but that's mostly probably because they can just smell what's going on. So it was just really interesting to me that I was, you know, picking at a snake and doing these things to him, and he would just like sit there and watch me. And I was like, this is kind of like a cobra, but like doesn't have venom. Like this is a really interesting species. And then I did like some more research about him. And of course I'm like, why would I pick such an expensive, like rare species? But I started going to different like reptile shows and seeing different ones at reptile shows and snagging them from people like flippers, tables and stuff. And I learned the hard way by doing that, I think, because I got a lot of sick animals. But I was able to take them to the vet, and I had minimal knowledge on, you know, just different veterinarian things, I guess, because I worked for an import facility. I did a lot of in-house treatments to stuff. So I kind of knew for the most part what I was doing. So I did end up you know, deworming them all and doing everything that I needed to. And all of them, I still have all of my indigos to this day. I haven't lost any that were in my care at like my house. So that was really cool. But they just definitely triggered something in me. Like I was telling you off, like before we were recording, they got me so passionate about keeping reptiles, that it just was that when I had the one and like understood his behavior and admired his behavior, I was like, I just need more. And then the collection grew. And then I had 5 adults. I did have 6, but I did have a mishap with breeding, which can happen with them. And that happened when I moved. So that was unfortunate. It was the girl I bought from Steven and kind of how Steven and I started talking. So it kind of sucked. But I do have all of my holdbacks from all of my breeding years. I started breeding in 22 because I did get older animals. All of my animals were around 4 to 6 years old when I got them, besides Natiri, the first one. He was the younger one. And then Xena, my high red female that has had 2 clutches for me now. I got her when she was around 2 years old. So X and Nakia, they're actually probably around like 10 years old now. So they're not young by any means, but they're also not really old. But they're definitely established animals. And then, so right now I'm going to have to count. But so there's 6 behind me. 5 of them are breeding size. One of them is a holdback from my first clutch. She's from 22, so she'll be ready in a couple years. I never want to push them like too young. Even if she's 4 years old and she's not to the size that I want her to be, I'm not going to pair her. Just because like I said, I had that mishap with the one, and it wasn't that she was too young or too small, because I've bred females the same size. Both of these 2 females behind me, they're very petite animals. So I didn't think it was a problem, but I just want the girls to be bigger so they can really handle my male, who has an attitude sometimes. Of course, my first one, who used to be sweet as ever, he is like my terror now. I can't trust him. I have to watch him. The only female I can put him with is X, who's smaller. She's on this side. And she ripped into him when he tried messing with her. And she's, like I said, she's significantly smaller than her, but it's pretty cool with reptiles. The females seem to rule the roost. Even if they are smaller, males seem to fall in line and respect them, for the most part with stuff. So
hey, dudes, take a lesson here.
Take notes. This is how it should work.
It should be done. Carry on.
But so yeah, I definitely I have to watch the individual personalities of the animals with pairing them. I'm sure other breeders just do things different ways. I just had to learn a hard lesson. So that's why I'm a lot more selective, like with what the pairings I do and who vibes and who doesn't. If I'm noticing stuff off, then I'll separate them just because it's not worth it. They have insanely strong bites. Steven just got bit by one of my hatchlings. Of course, she's a holdback too. She seems to be a Spitfire, and she bit him good, and he was bleeding for quite a while. And that's a hatchling. So, I mean, only a couple weeks old. So it's pretty insane when an adult indigo is, laying into something, because they have a very strong bite and they throw their whole body into it. So that's like one of my favorite things about them is they commit everything when they're hunting or doing anything. If I like throw different eggs into them, they'll start smashing them with their body, and they don't smash the egg, but they'll hit it like away. And then if you do give them a larger prey item, they'll start, like slamming it and stuff. They put their whole body into it, which is pretty cool. They know they can throw their weight around because they're an extremely muscular animal. So it's just really cool to see their natural behaviors. But where was I going? I have 6 ones that 5 that are breeding, 1 that's a holdback. She'll be ready soon. And then I have a 2.2 pair from 23 that I'll be pairing. They're all, so 2 of them are related. Like it's sets of 2. So I have 2 related and then 2 related, and I'm going to pair the unrelated pairs to each other, because I was able to get unrelated clutches that year. And then this year I'm holding back a pair. So I definitely am in over my head with indigos right now, and I need more space, more cages. I keep saying I need more 4x2x2s, because it's hard to let go of individuals where I'm like, this is just going to be insane.
So when you pair them, are they paired in like a neutral cage, or do you put the male in with the female, or female in with the male? Like, how does that work?
So I always put the male into the female enclosure, because the female has her like nest box and everything. And it's kind of like their hide / nest box. So that has seemed to be the best introduction I can do, because he'll just go in and smell her and then go right into the box. And then I think she's less defensive. Because 2 of my females in particular, the older girls, they're just not social at all. Like they really don't come out that much either. My one female, Xena, she's out all the time, and same with Warhol. All of the ones I've produced, they're really out and social, and same with the males. But these girls don't like to come out. So if I ever move them out of something that they're comfortable with, they like just don't do well. So I've had the best success adding males to females. And I feel like generally with breeding, that seems to be the way to go with a lot of stuff. Even when I was breeding tarantulas, it was always recommended to put males in with females first, because they're just more comfortable in their surroundings then. And then they're just not as reactive. But
is there like a certain time of year you pair them? Like how does that does that pairing, ovulation, laying eggs, incubation, like how does that kind of work too?
So for the indigos, I start cooling them around like the end of September and then beginning of October. And I cool them for, I would say, like a couple months, because then I didn't do it this year, but I'm going to do it next year. I want to start feeding them at the end of December to like start pulling them out of season, because I bred them in January, early January this year, and I felt like it was kind of late. I felt like the girls kind of wanted to start going before, and the boys 100% did. So I kind of want to just listen to the animals next year and go a little bit earlier. But you start hitting them with food, and it's like every 5 days, I'll generally give them a smaller meal. Sometimes I'll give like the boys a larger meal just once a week. Like I said, 2 of my girls are just, they're weird. They're petite and they don't like super large meals. If I try giving her like a medium rat or like a small medium rat, she'll just leave it. She won't eat it. And that gets frustrating, because then I'm throwing like free feeders to my tegu or my monitor that I mean, I'm going to feed them anyways, but it sucks when your animal's not eating like the food that's made for it. So I try to feed them smaller meals every 5 days. And then if it's a bigger meal, every 7 days. And then that usually generally kicks them in developing follicles. I have Steven feel for the follicles, because I'm still like learning how to feel. It is like I'm starting to learn it and get the feel for it, but it definitely is like you just have to get the feel for it. And then I just like feed based off of that. But they take, after they have like after they ovulate and they start developing, it's usually around 30 days they'll have their shed, and then 30 days after they have their shed, they'll lay eggs.
Okay.
And then this year I did the incubation a little bit warmer, so it was around like 77 to 80 degrees in the incubator, because I use the same incubator Steven uses for like all of his colubrids, just because we didn't have space to do anything else. And I actually had them hatch faster this year. So that it was like day 92, I got the second clutch hatched, and then 97 was for the first clutch. And then in 2023, it was 110 days for one of the clutches, and then 115 days for a different clutch. And usually that's like typically what the incubation time is for a Drymarchon. Like they are a longer, cooler temps and longer incubation period, because when they go over a certain temperature, which I think it's like, if they hit over like 80, I think it's 86, 88, they'll get kinks and deformities because they're incubating too warm.
Interesting.
And then another thing with Drymarchon eggs, the incubator, the ambient humidity, I think was around like 80, 90%. I think it was 80%. So the boxes, I mean, Steven's boxes, I think we're reading at 90%. I don't saturate all of the media, and then I just pour water basically to have like a couple inches of the media wet, and then I mist the sphagnum and put that like where the eggs are, like I put the eggs on top of that, or kind of like around them. And that's all I really do for humidity, because if you have too high of humidity, from at least what I've read, the eggs burst. And I just can't imagine that like the burrows where they would lay their eggs is 90% humidity all the time. Maybe it is, but it would be cool to go research to know exactly. But that was just like my understanding when I did read about breeding them. So I've always been cautious of making sure it's not like 90, 100% humidity all the time with incubating them.
Yeah, which is
If
like
I
what
see
I'm kind of used to.
condensation, I'll like wipe off the lid and like let it air out a little bit, just to make sure, because they will start to like mold and like do weird things. And I just always have been like cautious with that, I guess.
Is there like a certain, maybe I missed it, certain percentage humidity you want in the box?
So I need to put a sensor in next year so I know exactly. Yeah. I would assume like based off of like when it was looking too condensated, I would say that's probably in the 90% like humidity range. So I would say probably like 70%, maybe 80%. But I think if you go like much higher than that for like a prolonged period of time, like I really don't think the eggs look good.
Okay. Kind of makes sense. And since they do have a longer incubation time, that they just don't do well.
Yeah.
With the high humidity. I'm just trying to, because they absorb water and swell. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. And with the cooling down part, do you actually brumate them, or just bring down the temps a little bit? Like how does that, like how cold do you usually?
So I did brumate them the first time that I bred them in Wisconsin, because my parents didn't want to like pay heat. They were nice enough to let me move in with my snakes, because let me tell you, my parents did not like me having reptiles. Like growing up, they never like allowed me.
Oh, yeah.
I literally stole an anole from Florida and flew back with it so I could have a pet anole for like a couple months. And then I also, when I was 16, I worked at a pet store and had like a carpet python living in my closet for a couple of weeks until like I was getting in trouble for that, and then had to give her to a friend. And then I got a tegu, and then it went through the whole thing again. But I was able to go to college with him, so it all worked out. But I was able, since they didn't want to have heat in that room too much, I was able to cool it down to around like 60 degrees.
Okay.
And sometimes I think it would go to like 58, but it never went lower than that. And so I dropped them down probably for, I want to say it was like 2 months I dropped them down for a little bit, didn't feed them as much, and then slowly kicked their heat back in, like opened the vent and kicked it back in. And then brought them back up to 80s, 85. And then that kicked them into season. I started spraying them a little heavier and then feeding them frog legs because I thought that was the way to mimic what was going on in the wild to the best of my ability. And I was also taught by someone to put the shed into a misting like bottle to promote the males to like know there's competition, because indigos are known to be, you know, combative with each other, and that will get the male's testosterone flowing, and that in turn will get the female.
That's interesting.
Because she'll be like, oh, they're fighting over me.
Yeah. You said that you soaked the shed in like a sprayer. And
yeah, so I would soak it and then spray it into the opposite males, and the male would go crazy. And that kind of started kicking them into like, I want to breed. And I gotta say, the male that I did that to the most, he is like my best breeder to this day. I don't do that every season, but he did have a good season that year. He did better than my male Natiri. Natiri is just a slacker most years, but he's my first one.
You could bottle that and sell it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're breeding any combative species, like it is something, if you're having problems getting a male, you know, flowing in any way, like, because some males, like I've noticed people too, when they kind of raise animals together, and not necessarily snakes, but just when they're around the same animal in the same sense all the time, it's not going to like trigger their system to have any type of excitement. Where if it is like a new, like sometimes just shipping an animal to a new place, that kicks that animal into breeding, even though it wasn't breeding months ago, and you had this animal for years and it wasn't doing anything for you. And I think the same can be said for snakes, because they're around each other. It's not like they can't smell. So when you can kick in a scent or a competition that gets that animal, you know, its brain moving a little bit more, I think sometimes that can help set you up for success, or at least kick those endorphins going and get the animal all happy. And I think sometimes it does help for certain species.
Yeah, it must be. Was your reasoning that it's more potent in the mist than like putting the whole entire shed in there? I guess if you have multiple males you're trying to get it going, the mist makes sense. But did you think the mist was, again, more potent than just putting the other males just dry shed in there?
Yeah, like I said, I can't even remember who told me. It was when I worked at a pet store, but this gentleman did tell me like he just did that with his snakes in general for breeding. I think he was breeding boas at the time. But boas are known to be sometimes combative, I believe. So he was telling me that it worked for them. And then I'm pretty sure I heard someone else with colubrids doing it, and it was working. When I like talked on a few different like forums and stuff about it. But I think I just wanted to give it a shot. I think throwing the shed in there could be just as helpful, but I do think probably soaking it makes it more potent, and then you can spread it on the walls and you can get the scent more all over maybe.
Yeah, or if you had like a, you know, maybe with ball python or something, if you had multiple males, you can only use like one shed for one enclosure. If you put it in the bottle, you can do like multiple.
Yeah, exactly. And now that I have like multiple pairs going, I think I'll definitely like give it a shot again if I need to get anyone kicked into gear. I mean, usually, like I said, I grow my stuff out like long, slow and steady. So I generally have never had problems with like pairing too soon or any issues like that. I think what happened with my one female that I lost was she was still stressed out from the move. Because like I had animals, two of these females, the older girls, they regurged. They were like not doing well when I moved. So I kind of had to just leave them alone and just hope that they would, you know, turn it back on and, you know, get over everything. But I think I paired her when she still was in her adjustment period. So she was very reactive to him, most likely, because she just wasn't about it. And he didn't want to take no. And then they have really strong bites, and it's really easy to get lacerations. And unfortunately, like she just went septic very quickly. It got infected super quickly. It was such a deep gash. I've never seen a gash that deep on a snake. So it was very hard to see, hard to go through, but lesson was learned. And I know that they're more of a sensitive species when you change their environment up now. So
Okay.
lesson learned.
Okay. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, like we talked about, I went through a huge move, and knock on wood, but the species I'm, ball pythons are like tanks, right? So you can't. It just depends on the species that you're working with. Oh no, did you lose your? I see you're like muted. Oh no. Oh, something may be happening. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Oh, maybe she had to mute herself for a second. Yeah, I think you're muted, Brooke. I cannot hear you. Yeah, I think. Yep, 1 second. Okay, yeah, no problem. Steven to the rescue. I see his arm there.
Testing.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry.
That was his fault, not mine. I just want to know.
Steven. Anyway, oh yeah, moving, like, yeah, you have to know your species. I mean, knock on wood, I try not to breed that heavy this year, and so far it's going well. I just had my third ball python clutch. She's laying it right now.
Nice.
So yeah, I try not to do super heavy, but the ball pythons are like totally different species. So if you're working with a more sensitive species, then yeah.
I just think with any species though, like slow and steady like wins the race. And just because an animal is up to size and weight doesn't mean that she has the years of development like under her belt to produce like a good clutch like a 4-year-old plus female would. Like even with my rhino iguanas, like you really should wait 6 years before you even try breeding them if you want to have success. Because is it worth it to breed something early to get a few clutches for it to go egg bound in the future? Like even if it doesn't go egg bound like the first time you breed it, like you still can mess with an animal system to like not have them develop properly. And I just don't think that's worth it, especially when you're spending like money on higher end animals and stuff. But all animals, I feel like if you're going to be breeding them, you should try to do right by them and let them get to size and maturity.
100%. Yeah, and I feel like there's not enough research to actually like who's deciding what maturity is and how long that is. Like I feel like you can only really know that from bone structure, right? Especially with females, like they're passing these eggs through through that skeleton. So I feel like to me that's the only kind of way to know if an animal is really mature is based on
in the way like I try to explain it to people who just like don't want to agree or listen is like, especially a lot of these people have kids. So I'm like, so your daughter gets her period when she's 10 to 12 years old. Does that mean she should be having babies? Like because an animal is cycling at a certain age doesn't mean it's ready to pass, life through it by any means. And
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just think people need, not saying that animals are the same as humans. Like, I definitely will put them in that category sometimes, but I just think people should look at it more in that way because they just are breeding a lot of stuff too young, and it's not fair to the animals.
Yeah, 100% with that. And plus with people, like we're seeing now that girls are getting their periods a lot earlier than they have been, I think due to the diet. So who's to say that's also maybe not also happening with these captive bred reptiles that we're not totally implementing what they're in the wild. They're rats, but we're feeding the rats, a certain diet. So I think that could have
we're feeding them like soybeans and different things that they wouldn't be eating, in the wild, like different fruits, nuts, seeds. Yes, they aren't getting what they're getting. So it's just definitely something I think people should just try to be patient, because I think your reward will be just much greater. And I think it's really awesome when like my 2 females are 10 years old and they're breeding. I think it's cool when you can have older breeders still do their thing like they naturally would in the wild because they're healthy. And I mean, nothing can really beat that, because I feel like that's the point we all keep, is because we like these animals. So it's good to take care of them just like you ideally would want to take care of yourself and your body.
Right. I think it's just some people maybe get into it because they love animal, but so easy to kind of turn that sort of blind and see like the money and stuff, and then you kind of like talk yourself into doing something that you wouldn't otherwise have done. So that's something as keepers that we have to keep in the back of our mind. It's so easy to do that. You're like, oh, if I did this, I would get an extra clutch or something earlier, and then that could give me more money and I could buy something else. And then you kind of like, again, trick yourself into doing things that you probably wouldn't have when you got into it.
And I'm sure there's definitely people that are still successful when they do, breed early or do these things. I just feel like in the long run, when I've seen people cut corners on things, that's not good for the animal. And then it's definitely not good for their pocketbook in the future, because I feel like animals that breed longer and give you bigger clutches and healthier clutches, they're going to make you more money in the long run than these animals that are shooting out eggs super quickly. They're breeding them really young, and then they're like, oh, they crap out when they're 4 years old. And it's like, yeah, well, when you're breeding them when they're 2 years old, how do you expect their longevity to be? If you had your kid have a kid when she was 10 years old, multiple kids too, how is she doing health-wise?
Not good. Not good.
I mean, and you too, you work with dogs and cats, so like that too. Like when people don't let their dog get their first heat and go through that, the female doesn't usually produce as well, or she'll have complications.
Yeah, or people are, a known breed that is known to have breeding issues, but we can, that they're continually bred. That's a whole nother thing. But I mean, I grew up on a farm with cattle, and like, if it was a younger animal that maybe which cattle, it's hard because you're usually all in one. But if you have females that are a little on the younger side, their pelvis isn't developed as much.
Yes, because it doesn't set in. And I feel like reptiles, we just don't look at them the same way because their anatomy isn't the same, necessarily. But I feel like they fall into like similar category. Like anything that is reproducing, a female especially, they're gonna fall into similar categories.
So these younger guys, we had to pull them. Sometimes stuck, the mom dies, sometimes the calf dies. So it's not, depending on how you breed, but it's something that just happens. So it's similar where the pelvis isn't just full. It's why I kind of go back to the actual skeleton structure is maybe a better gauge of maturity, which that's just a lot of research done.
That would be actually really interesting to do x-rays on a 2-year-old animal, like a 2-year-old python versus a 6-year-old python and like an 8-year-old python, just to see if the structure changes at all, where you're like, oh, like they would pass eggs much easier at this point. Because like it is really common for pythons and other animals, or pythons especially, I know they have problems with like oviducts getting twisted or clogged and stuff like that. And then there's other species that get egg bound, like colubrids. If you're breeding them before they're 4 years old, like you're most likely going to have an egg bound snake. So it'd just be interesting to see that body structure like throughout the years, to see if it changes in a way where you're like, oh, when you're breeding a snake at 6 years old, there's no way this animal's going to go egg bound.
Not only size, but also just like, again, they probably have to just be like its own study, but actually taking samples of the bone and looking at mineralization, or there's a lot of stuff you could maybe do to tell. But I don't know, it could be a cool thing, so that we actually would know instead of just guessing based on their weight, or doing some kind of study sort of in the wild, like somehow tracking a certain group and seeing the average age they actually breed and lay. It's a really long-term thing. That's, I guess, another way to go about it. So
I mean, I definitely know, especially from what I'm saying, it could be probably contradicted, because I do know people that have gone in the wild to see different python species and stuff, and they're smaller and having clutches. So I mean, there probably is these little outliers here and there, but it would be interesting to see across the board with captive and wild animals to see what their anatomy is looking like at certain ages.
And it also brings up like the question of, okay, we always relate things to the wild, but how far are some of these species from the wild, right? Like I feel like ball pythons are kind of like pretty well removed example from the wild. So how much can you actually just base what's going on in the wild? Because it'd be like basing the care of your dog like I'm gonna go loosely here, on a wolf, right? I'm not saying because they've been domesticated for thousands of years. I'm not but you kind of get what I'm saying of, okay, at what point are they kind of no longer, I don't know.
Where they kind of fall more in like the domesticated line, not that they're not an exotic pet, but they have probably different genetic makeup, I would say, to a degree, just because they've been bred in captivity so much that they are going to act different than a wild type animal.
Yeah.
I mean, that would just be my assumption, because I mean, some of these animals you have to force feed to get started and stuff, and no one's going to do that for them in the wild.
Heck no. Yeah. And then, once you breed, you get genes that change, underlying stuff. You can go on a whole tangent on that. But yeah, it's just interesting. But with the kind of going back to the indigos and stuff, what's it like establishing the neonates? Like, once incubate them, they hatch, like, what's that? Are they pretty good eaters, easy to establish? Are they pain? Like, how's that kind of go?
Yeah, they're kind of 50-50. Like, this year I got really lucky. Usually I start all of my neonates on silver sides or just pinkies, and I'll just see what they'll choose. This year I got denied like everything, so I tried African soft fur pinkies, and they all took those right off the bat. But I tried that now with the second clutch, and only one of the 3 took the food. It seems like they took the silver sides. I had to just leave them in there, because until indigos have like their 3rd shed, they're very insecure, and they just are flighty and spazzes, and it's just kind of a pain. So you kind of just want to like leave them alone and drop feed them, and then you can start tongue feeding stuff in the future. But they, I feel like they establish better with silver sides majority of the time. But that kind of changed this year for me when they took the soft furs over the silver sides. Only one of the 4 wanted silver sides. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I've also had success with getting stuff started with feeding them like pieces of frog leg when I had access to them more in Illinois. And then I have gotten picky eaters to eat a little bit of chicken heart too. I kind of like, if I have like a really picky one, I'll just like leave like a little smorgasbord of food in there and be like, pick what you want to eat, because I don't know what you want to eat. And then they kind of just have to like pick from there. But I have had 2 babies now that just, they didn't want to eat, they didn't grow. I tried force feeding them, but they didn't make it. But they were also very small neonates. They were much smaller than like my typical. So I think sometimes just like in the wild, there's some that are just not like meant to really thrive. And of course I try getting all of them to eat. Like, I do everything that I can, even if they are smaller. But sometimes I think I'm just not that lucky with getting, I mean, I've had a good success besides those 2. So I think I'm doing pretty good. But I think when they hatch out super small and they just act different than the others, like they're just really not meant to be in the world, unfortunately.
Yeah. Failure to thrive is a thing. It's hard. I've talked to pet parents before, like cats and dogs, like puppies and stuff, and like you could spend $15,000-$20,000 trying to save this puppy, and you 9 times out of 10, if they have that failure to thrive, they're gonna die no matter how much intervention you do. So it's hard for people to kind of grasp that, but there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, and I think at a certain point, like, I'm all for helping animals that like need extra help and stuff, but there's a certain point where like you don't want to play God and intervene too much, because if this animal was meant to survive and thrive, and it wasn't like human intervention is what caused this animal to have a problem, then you kind of just have to accept, nature as it is, because it's better to have, genetically strong animals,
100%.
Having babies than ones that they were hard to get started. You had to cut them out of the egg. You had to, do all these extra steps that a strong, healthy animal, it's not going to need all those extra help.
Yeah. And it becomes like, if you had an animal that you got, I probably wouldn't keep it. I would sell it as pet only, because then you wouldn't want to like reproduce those weak genes into the system or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely go back and forth because sometimes I feel it's nice to have like misfit animals like in the world, like that people do have like the heart to take care of and stuff. But then I also think of all the animals that like don't get homes because of these other animals. But if you're not trying to breed or do any of those things, then I can see like having one or something, is okay. I just think to glorify the misfits all the time can be hurtful to people breeding, just like the adopt don't shop kind of hurt breeders that were good breeders. And I think there's a way to like have that happy medium and not fully swing to one side at least.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I remember the adopt don't shop kind of the craze of it, and yeah, it hurts. Like there's no harm in wanting, at least on the dog side, like a purebred, because you kind of know like what they're bred to do, their history, the genetic makeup that you don't get in a shelter dog. So it kind of just depends.
Yeah. Because when you're selling like a normal average Joe, like, or adopting out a hound mix or a shepherd mix to someone or a pity mix to someone that they've never had a dog in their life, like, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to be prepared for, what they're met with. They would be much better with a purebred English lab or, a golden that is more accustomed to being, a household pet.
Yep. And with the Drymarchons too, have you ever scented like the food? Like I know in Hognose they have like those scent strips like frog and stuff. Have you tried that or do they not respond to that?
So yes, to a degree. I'll just use like when I defrost the silver sides, I'll use like that juice, like the water and smell of it to dunk onto like pinkies or softers. And then for the frog juices, I did the same thing. So sometimes it works, but other times like it doesn't do the trick. Like they want the real thing.
Okay. It's not as much. And with, you talked about in the beginning how they kind of have different phenotypes, like they look kind of different from each other. What makes you want to hold one back versus sell one? Like what in that animal?
So for me right now, what I'm really trying to work with is like more of the mottled look. So kind of how you were talking like with the tortoiseshell, like the calico look. Yeah. I'm definitely trying to do that with my indigos more because they have the black, the red, the white working through them. And then I have pairings that are like a higher blue color to them. They still have red throughout their bodies, but the coloring of them is just more like this indigo blue. So I try to line breed that, and then I'm trying to go for like the mottleds. I have this male from 23 that has kind of like an axanthic back half, and then he's very red in the front. So I'm trying to breed him to this mottled girl to see if I can kind of get a best of both worlds situation.
That'll be interesting. Look, and there's nothing that's popped up in these guys that's like gene or morph yet. It's strictly
I heard of I think it was a leucistic. I saw like a really crappy like phone image, like a flip phone image,
like crappy image, right?
Yeah. So I can't really say yes or no. But that would be cool to pop out like an albino or a leucistic. I haven't seen one with my own eyes, like in person.
Okay. Very cool. Awesome. I don't think of anything else. We're kind of coming up to an hour and a half almost. I do need to do a commercial, so let me do that real quick for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and kind of wrap things up the last few minutes. Cool. It's been a great, fantastic episode. MJ was in the chat, so thanks for tapping in, guys. But it's been great. All right, we'll be right back.
One of the biggest growths we have in the reptile industry today are the rare species of reptiles that aren't worked with. That's right. That's why I went ahead and partnered up again with Brian Susan over at SUNDOWN Reptiles. Brian works with species such as kahua geckos, gargoyle geckos, all species of tree monitors. He works with abronia and many other cool species geckos that you can check out all on his website. Head over to sundownreptiles.com. see what he has available. Brian's one of the best doing it in the reptile industry today. He's been on the show multiple times, so make sure you check out all of Brian Susan's episodes on Trap Talk Reptile Network. But more importantly, for the highest quality of captive bred reptiles, make sure you head over to sundownreptiles.com and make sure you give him a follow on Instagram. Thank you again, Brian Susan over at Sundown Reptiles. One of the things I love about being a part of the reptile industry is all the learning, okay? Learning can be fun, and I can prove that to you. Thank you so much to today's sponsor, Gary Scavino over at gs.reptiles. I highly recommend you head over to his YouTube channel, follow all this man's content when it comes to learning about rare species of snakes you could be keeping in the hobby, and also just finding out how easy a lot of these rare species of snakes are to keep in general. So thank you so much, Gary Scavino of GS Reptiles. Again, head over to his YouTube channel. Also head over to his Instagram to be on top of all of his current work and be ready for a big year over at GS Reptiles. Thank you so much, Gary, for your ongoing support. I really appreciate it. Cheers.
Lady. Oh, I think she maybe took a little bit of a break. It's okay. You're good. I only see one like here. I don't see the second one. Usually I do two, but I only see the one posted. So
Okay. I was like, I thought I had more time to run to the bathroom, and then I was like, oh my God.
okay.
It was only like a second though, so I wasn't too late.
That's okay. We have like I said, we're coming up an hour and a half. So if you guys are in the questions, go ahead and post if you got questions. We'll kind of hit for that, but we're kind of wrapping things up. We have this comment. Perfect. Great. Been such a great episode. Yep. This has been fantastic. You've been awesome to have on, and definitely can see your passion, knowledge. So kind of finishing up with the most recent clutches. How many babies did you say you had this year?
So I only had 7 babies this year. I've been having smaller clutches. I think it was with the move and everything. And then now that I got like better feeders and a whole system going, I'm just going to pump them with a lot more variety and different meals, just feed them a lot more. And I think we'll get back to our old system like I used to have. Definitely moving threw me off a lot. Everyone was cared for, obviously, but it was hard to stay on top of their like typical schedule.
Oh, 100%. No, I totally, with breeding, I was like, I didn't keep track at all. I didn't catch ovulations. Prelay shed, I was like, maybe, but then the girl that laid today, like, she just had her prelay shed like a few weeks ago. So I was like, okay, well, I don't even know. I'm just like, hey, they're fed, clean water, and they're gonna do what they're gonna do.
As long as everyone's like taking care of like the bare necessities, then you can like at least get by with it. Because moving with animals is just like a whole another world, I feel like.
10 out of 10 do not recommend.
No, especially the big enclosures and everything. It's just, I had to like silicone one of my exoteras, like my 361836. We got it all the way here, and then they I think they set it down and it just like cracked on the side, and I was so it was definitely stressful. And then wrapping, I like totally overdid it compared to Steven with the bubble wrap, but I wrapped all of my glass because I was just not gonna lose glasses for my enclosures.
As far as enclosures, I think all mine are okay. One of my ET enclosures, like the top screen got broken into, but they Tamara, they actually sent me
Nice.
top to replace it. I think the big thing was like my TV was broken when I opened it, so I'm kind of like mad about that because the moving company packaged it and wrapped it. So yeah, I had a foul claim, still waiting on that to go through. So that's kind of the crappiest stuff. But yeah,
That really sucks.
Moving, not fun at all. So you had 7. How many are you holding back again? How many do you have for sale?
Right now I just have the 2 I'm holding back. I have to sex the other clutch, but I have 2 males available right now, and they are going to be like really high red modeled individuals. I will say like a lot of them just like look way different when they're younger. So if people ever want to see like pictures of like what they're projected to look like, or just the different colors that like can come out from different babies, I'm more than happy to show people. Because again, like an animal a year into growth is going to look way different than what it does hatched out. I don't think people know that with the Mexican indigos in particular, like they change a lot as they grow with their color, especially the high red individuals. My high red female, I think it's on my story still if people want to look, but she looks completely different as a baby. She just looks like your typical, black indigo snake. And now she's high modeled red and gorgeous. So definitely don't overlook them. But yeah, I have 2 males available, and I'm hoping to have some females available from this other clutch. I had 3.1 for this first clutch, so I had male heavy clutch this time. So hopefully I have some females. They won't be unrelated pairs though. This year I got they're going to be half siblings. Just if anyone wants to know about that. But I do know people that, pair full siblings and, like the offspring back to the parents. So, and they don't have problems, at least with the indigos. So if they want to do that, they can. I just try to, for my personal, I don't know, it's my personal map of things. I'm trying to do kind of like the lineage chart, like the green tree people do. But I would like to do that with all of my indigos since I have all of the original adults, and I can at least then, go back and keep them as unrelated as possible. And then if I want to try to get a certain trait or something out of something, then breeding it back to, its parent or something.
That seems like a good way to go about it. I'll definitely be doing the same thing with the chewies, like the lineage chart. I think it just helps people when they're buying what they look like, especially if they don't look like that when they're babies. And how can people kind of reach out to you if they're interested or if they have more questions or anything?
So personally, I use Instagram the most. So if people want to reach out there, they're more than welcome to. I do have Facebook. My Instagram is Bow Lizard. And then on Facebook, I'm Brooke Elder. I think it's just open so people can follow me, because I posted a few videos of Rocco and they really popped off. And then I started getting crazy amount of friend requests and not knowing everyone. And then Facebook said to just open it up to followers, I think it was. So that's what I did. So you can shoot me a follow and then I will get to it eventually. If it goes to my spam or whatever, I do look through it probably once a month. So I'll get back to you eventually. Facebook, and then Instagram, I'm more rapid with my response. So you'll hear from me that day if you message me on Instagram.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll double check, but I put the link to your Instagram in the description below for people to reach out. And yeah, I've noticed that with Facebook too. The last few months, I get a ton of Facebook friend requests, and I usually just try to keep that to people I directly know. So I'll have to put a follower thing. I feel bad. I kind of just leave them there. I don't decline, but I don't if I don't know you, then I feel weird kind of adding it. But.
Yeah, I definitely when I first got into the community, I kind of just accepted anyone that was keeping reptiles or had 100 mutual friends or whatever. And then it kind of got out of hand just with I feel just people I don't even know. So I definitely use Instagram more because I can filter the different people I talk to and different stuff like that. But if people ever have questions about breeding indigos, even if you haven't bought from me, I don't mind answering questions. And then I would love if you buy from me though. And then if people have questions about just any other reptile keeping, or if they have any injury or anything that pops up, I'm not a licensed vet or anything, but I'm always down to help other fellow keepers out with just basic things where you don't have to see a vet. But if you do need to see a vet, I'm going to say take your animal to the vet, because we should not be doing these at-home surgeries and whatnot that I have seen happen in this community.
I probably get 2 or 3 inquiries, I don't know, a week, or I feel several. I don't know. I don't count them, but I do get a lot of not just reptile, but dog, which I don't mind helping people, but I also have a side job where I do that too. So
you should do a Patreon so people can pay you to ask you, because I feel that would suck being a vet, is everyone's gonna be ooh, free medical advice, free medical care, and it's if you're worried about something and you are significantly worried and using like good reasoning skills and everything, like just take your animal to the vet. Like it's better to be safe than sorry, especially if it is something where you're like, okay, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, it's so hard to do over the phone. Like I've been doing virtual vets ever since I graduated, so 4 years out. So I'm pretty used to that. I'm used to the language I can use and everything like that. Because yeah, you can get in trouble. But yeah, I've had some friends be like, "Oh, start a Patreon." I don't know. I want to wait till I'm like 5 years kind of in before I do that. Just because like some people they haven't done like jack shit and they just
Yeah.
start a Patreon, and I'm kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like a weird, like, what help are you giving? Like, what information? Like, how are you helping people you don't even?
You can at least like advertise it though. Like you can do some reptile like breeding tips, and then you can also do dog and cat related questions.
Yeah, I'll think about it.
Might be a good side gig. I don't know.
Few more years into it. Yeah, it is on the back of my mind. So, but yeah, perfect episode. We're at an hour and a half. Perfect. It was great. Seemed like a lot of people learned some stuff, and I learned a lot of things. I thought it was a great conversation. We talked about pretty much what I wanted to talk about, and then kind of went on little tangents here and there. But I thought
Yeah.
great.
I'm always nervous starting out, but I was happy to be back. And I appreciate you having this platform for me to talk about the indigos, because I definitely want people to know me for the indigos because they are my passion. And I want other people to be passionate about them because they definitely get a bad rap for being like stinky and all these other things, kind of like those king rats. And I mean, Steven's now learned too. Like I only have one female that she's my prettiest female, but she likes to musk. But otherwise, like all of my indigos, they don't musk on you. Even if you're feeling for follicles and stuff, like they're not psycho poop cannons, like, and stinky, like all these people make them out to be. They're really intelligent and they just have to trust their keeper, and they do great.
They seem awesome. Perfect. Learned so much. Again, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having
And people can reach out to you, and then yeah, I'll put you backstage and be good to go.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Brooke. Let me move her. All right. Perfect episode, guys. Thank you so much for tapping in. Next week will be Mad Hatter Exotic. She's from South Africa, so that'll be really fun. I recorded that today. I'll be going out of town PhD defense on Friday, so knock on wood that goes okay, so I can get that over with finally. So yeah, I'll be out of town next weekend and go from there. So if you guys have questions, reach out. But I hope you have a great start to your week.